Welcome, welcome, welcome. What a full house we have. It's great to see so many familiar faces as well as quite a few new ones. Just great to see such a great group here, and we're in for quite a treat this evening with the panel that we have put together for you. My name is Jenny Chapman. I'm the Managing Director of the Enterprise and Insights business for Cision and Gorkana, a Cision Group company. And I'm just really happy to be here with you all tonight. The hashtag for tonight is hashtag AMEC, MM for Measurement Month, which is being sponsored by Cision and by Gorkana. And the hashtag for that is hashtag Gorkana Connects, hashtag Cision. I'm not going to do that, because that's really obnoxious. As many of you know, Gorkana joined, and some of you may not, Gorkana joined the Cision family of companies earlier this year, and we are so delighted to be hosting our first joint event together. So this is the first event that we're doing together. And this is also the closing week of Measurement Month, sponsored by AMEC, which, how many people in the audience know AMEC? Raise your hand. Wonderful, great showing. AMEC is the global industry trade body with more than 140 member companies across over 40 countries. So it's truly a global organization that focuses on setting standards on how should we be measuring PR measurement, how should we be measuring and evaluating the impact of communications, and setting standards that we can use not only here but globally to show the value of PR. Their focus has been on things like the Barcelona Principles, which are one of the first standards that have been adopted globally around what are the best practices when it comes to really creating a future-proofed measurement program. So I'm going to do one more poll. How many folks here have heard of the Barcelona Principles? That is amazing. When I asked this question like 2 years ago, probably got half of that response. All the work that we're doing, we also had the chairman of AMEC with us here this evening, Jeremy Thompson, right there in the back. Hello, pleasure to have you here. Cision, Gorkana, and other companies have been hosting a series of events this whole month that's been really focused to bringing the best practices around measurement. And when it comes to communication and measurement in particular. And these events have been happening in Australia, in London, and New York. And today, we're actually wrapping up the week for all the events that have happened. This is the last one happening in New York. And tomorrow, we'll be wrapping up Measurement Month in London, and Gorkana will actually be hosting the closing event for that there. So we are delighted and really honored to have these panelists today with you today. Each of them have come prepared to share with you best practices within their leading organizations around what they have done to create programs and beliefs that are backed by numbers, and to help show the value of what they're doing, of what communication is doing for the organization, and giving communication really a seat at the table within the organization. So I'm really delighted to start, we have Arturo Romboli, who is Strategic Planning Specialist for UNICEF. And he's responsible for the strategic planning for the Division of Communication, the DOC, and is, been pretty busy this week, because guess where he's been? At the United Nations and part of the General Assembly. You can actually see one of the dashboards. We have two big screens upstairs, and one of the screens is actually presenting to you live data for a program that we worked with Arturo and his team, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that was, tweeting live what people were saying about what was happening. There was a tent that was set up outside, so you're going to be able to see that when you go upstairs. Please do take a look. And I think Arturo is going to talk a little bit about that program with us today. He actually coordinates demand management for communication support and oversees monitoring and evaluation of various initiatives. And he's been really critical in the development of a global communication strategy for UNICEF, all of really applying the principles of AMEC to that program, and has been taking a lead with the rest of his team in a global integrated media monitoring and impact analysis program. Second, we have Eileen Shield, who comes to us from an amazing organization, the Cleveland Clinic. And Eileen is the Executive Director of Corporate Communications and is a wonderful professional. We're really, really delighted that we're able to have her. She flew in from Ohio to be here with us. And she oversees the internal as well as the external strategic communications, crisis, and issues management, as well as media relations, and is the chief spokesperson of the health system locally, nationally, as well as internationally. And she's all about protecting and promoting the reputation of Cleveland Clinic. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have John Plowski, who is Senior Vice President of Corporate and Public Affairs for TD Bank. John is going to bring it home for us this evening with some amazing case studies, and I think there's a little video involved as well. And he's Senior Vice President of Corporate and Public Affairs at TD Bank, and has an amazing background. I mean, he has been, for the last few years at TD Bank. Before that, he spent, many years at eBay running their strategic communications, and before that ran comms for AIG. So he's been in some of the top companies around the world and is with us here this evening to share some of his experiences with all of you. And this great panel is all going to help us become better, measurement of communication practitioners this evening. So welcome and thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Thanks, Jenny, for the introduction. Thanks to the Orkana Group and also to Session for inviting me here tonight. I think it's a great opportunity for me to share with you what we have done in the last year and a half in terms of defining a global communication strategy for UNICEF, which is one of the leading non-profit organizations, one of the leading UN agencies, and also in support of that global communication strategy, the development of a program, a monitoring and evaluation program to try to measure the impact of our work. It's a bit challenging in a way because we are not selling cars or selling stuff. I mean, in UNICEF, our main goal is really to try to promote the right of the children everywhere and at every time. So everything we do is to try to make sure that children around the world are really feeling protected and all the rights are fulfilled. We're talking about almost half of the world population, people under 18 years old. So the mission of the organization is really important for us. But to measure the impact of our work is not very easy, as I said, because sometimes it's kind of challenging to try to identify what is the return on the investment. However, we are trying to define a global communication strategy which is very specific in what we want to achieve. And last year, the executive director approved a new global communication strategy which has three main objectives. One is related to voice, which is really position UNICEF as a leading voice for and with children. So in everything we do on online media, social media, TV, broadcast, we really want to be recognized as the leading organization for children. We want to be the leading voice for them in everything that we do. The second objective is to try to reach by 2017 1 billion people. So that with everything we do again in terms of communication and public advocacy, that at least 1 billion people around the world are familiar with our message. And finally, the third objective is about engagement, that we want to engage at least 50 million people acting regularly in support of UNICEF, but also in support of children. So in a way, we are trying to convert something that can be quite abstract to something which is a bit more specific, which is something a bit more tangible. So it's about positioning the organization as a leading voice. It's about reaching people with a message, and it's also about engaging them in what we do. In terms of engagement, there are different ways on how people can do it. It's probably the easiest way to do it is to make a donation, to donate money to UNICEF. But we're also looking at other ways where people can engage with UNICEF. Could be volunteering for the organization, could be signing a petition, could be engaging in some sort of initiatives or campaigns that we launch worldwide. So it's very important also for us to try to define clearly what are the actions that we are asking people to do in support of the organization. Just to give like a snapshot on where we are in terms of the global footprint, in terms of social media, we are present in over 190 countries, and over 40% of the people that follow UNICEF on Twitter and Facebook and Weibo in China are millennials. So we are talking about over 16 million people around the world who are millennials. And that's what we have defined as one of the target audiences, the middle class on one hand, and then younger audiences and millennials on the other. UNICEF is already like a leading organization on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, in comparison to other nonprofit and to other organizations. So in terms of the volume or the amount of people and that are following the organization globally is clearly a leader. It's not only about Facebook and Twitter. I mean, it's clearly that in terms of social media in the Western world, Facebook and Twitter are really leading. But we are also looking at markets like in China, where Weibo, for example, is a leading social media network. So we're also trying to work with the local, with our local office there to try to engage people in a market that for us here in the US is sometimes difficult to understand. So we're also working with the local office to try to engage local audiences in different ways. And then it's not only about the numbers, because the numbers are impressive for us, but it's also about the quality of engagement. And earlier this year in March, Diplomacy named UNICEF as by far the most effective international organization on Twitter. So we are always trying to improve the way we engage with the audience, the way we engage also with influencers. And the good thing is that the brand is very positive for us. It's very kind of easy for us to engage with people worldwide. So we have created a system where we can track in real time the number of followers we have, not only the global accounts, but we are looking at every single account that we have in 190 countries around the globe. And we're talking about Facebook, Twitter, and Weibo. So as of today, more or less, we have like almost 25 million followers worldwide. And the growth that we see is around 14%. We're estimating to reach, in April next year, 30 million followers, which is also in line with the goal that we have identified as reaching 50 million people by 2017. So it's also about creating systems and tools to be able to track in real time what is that we do. And what Jenny mentioned that we can see upstairs is going to be like it's a dashboard where we can see in real time all the conversations around the United Nations General Assembly and also the main topics that we are covering during the week. We're talking about peace, about child protection, gender, water and sanitation. And we have designed a dashboard and a project that is able to track in real time what people are saying across different social networks. And now I would like to share with you some of the lessons we have learned in the last year and a half. That has been the first time that in UNICEF we have developed such a global, such a kind of global program for a non-profit organization. I wanted to share that with you today because I think there are a few things that can probably be taken home by you and you can replicate that in some of your organizations. Keep it simple is probably the most important advice that we can give. When we started the process and the people from the Orkana team, Jenny, Megan, they can confirm that it was a bit ambitious. We wanted to have, like 50 KPIs. We wanted all the country offices to report like in real time every month, and then we wanted to aggregate the numbers. I mean, it was really crazy. And then we realized that, I mean, while technically that may be possible to do, in reality it wasn't that way. So we tried to find ways to make it simple, just to focus probably on the top 4, 5, or 6 KPIs that we can track, and then also try to be a bit more flexible, allowing country offices, for example, our local offices, to report only on the things that they can report. As you may know, some of the KPIs require technical expertise, technology, or a company, in this case like Orkana, to do all the analysis for us, and sometimes that may have some cost implication for country offices, so we also need to keep that in mind, that simplicity and flexibility in that case was really crucial. Then this one is about taking M&E and measurement seriously within the organization. That M&E should not be an afterthought. And in UNICEF, despite being one of the global nonprofits in the world, we never had a global communication strategy before, and we never had an M&E framework as we do now. So it is taking some time and took some time for us to really be able to get people on board. And I'm talking about senior managers, from the executive director to the directors of the different divisions, to really understand that what we are doing, is very serious and it's very technical and very complex. So that we're still working on that, but getting senior management and colleagues on board has been really, really crucial. And we're using that in a way to change the way that we do business and the way we communicate. So when I present this project to my colleagues or to external partners, I never present this as a measurement program. I think this is a change management program. We are really asking people to change the way they work, to change the way that we do communication, because it's really focused on evidence. So we need to also change a little bit the culture of the organization. So what we did for that was to develop a comprehensive M&E framework that kind of explained clearly all the different components, all the different steps of the plan, and we are trying to explain that to people all the time. So it takes really time to get people on board, but has been, I think, it's crucial to make them understand that this is a serious thing. This one is about hiring the right people, develop human capital, and invest in capacity building. We also realized very quickly that we didn't have the capacity in our team to deal with such a program, to implement such a program. So we created a team within the Division of Communication, which is my team, that is now leading the implementation of the program. A program that is completely new. No one has done it before in UNICEF. So we also needed to train our staff. I mean, when I say staff, I'm talking about the communication team, which is very important, but also we are training those that are not in the communication function. And that's very important, because when you are sharing data with non-communication people, which is 95% of the time, you want them to understand. So, for example, if I had the head of emergencies or the head of program looking at one of the reports that we get from Gorkana, I want them to really understand what is that we are measuring. And the report can go really well, because the information you have there is really good, and they understand and they value it, but it can go really bad, because if they don't understand what you are trying to measure, it may create a lot of confusion. Then they will forward the email to a big team, and then people, you have to be really, really careful on what you do with information. So capacity building and training, crucial. We're investing a lot on that. It's also taking a lot of time. It's taking time because we are talking about a truly global organization, 190 country offices, different languages, different capacities, so it's taking time. And again, with Gorkana, we are working on a number of initiatives to try to translate to the local level what we have done globally. This one is about working with the right partners, and you cannot do it alone. I said that before. It's impossible for a company or an organization to implement such an ambitious program just with internal resources. Basically, because it's very technical, because you need technology, because you need specific tools to be able to track conversations, to analyze, and to codify all the clips, and to get the dashboards. You cannot do it alone. If you want to do it alone, then you will have to invest a hell lot amount of money that probably it will kind of result in a very expensive operation for you that is not really your core business to do measurement and evaluation. You are implementing a program, but you need to hire the people who are the best in the industry to do that. And that's what we have done. We are working with a number of companies. Gorkana is for sure kind of the main partner in this program, but we're also working with other companies like Ubiquity, the media measurement. And we have also partnered with David Rockland in Ketchum. Many of you may know him. He's kind of a guru in the measurement industry. And he's providing us more it's like a senior advisor who is helping us to understand if the strategy and the direction we are taking is appropriate or not. So we meet every quarter. We have a meeting with Megan, who is account manager, with Jenny, with David Rockland, and with a group of senior managers in the Division of Communication. We look at the reports, and then they provide feedback and insights. And the discussions are really good because we get to discuss about very important issues. And it's good also for me because I get external people telling my colleagues what they should be doing. So it's also like a bit political there to bring people from outside who are experts to help. And then the third area of the partnership is that we are quite committed in the AMEC organization. So we are, with Eileen, we are leading the nonprofit group, and we actively participate in the annual meeting. We're also trying to bring on board more nonprofit organizations, and we are, in a way, committed to kind of bring the voice of nonprofit to such an important group. So seeking advice and not trying to reinvent the wheel is very important. Others may have already found a solution to problems you encounter. One thing that we see in the nonprofit and in the United Nations that sometimes we are not as professional as you guys in the profit in the profit sector. Companies, it's a bit more competitive. They invest more resources in measurement, in communication, in marketing. They know how to do things well, or sometimes they don't know how to do things well, but they have probably been there before. So we have created a group of what we call is an advisory board that meets twice a year. It's a group of senior communication managers from companies like MasterCard, Ketchum, Jeremy is also part of the board. And it's a group of 10, 15 people. They come together twice a year. Again, they look at the program, they look at the reports, and they provide feedback and guidance on things that we could be improving. So it's also like a flexible group. So John, if you want to join the group, you are welcome to do so. Next meeting will be in November. We would be delighted to have you on board. I mean, we're always trying to learn from companies like yours that have already been engaged in this area of work probably for a longer time. I have 2 more to go. I hope you find them in a way useful, because for us has been sometimes a bit of a painful process, but we have learned a lot in the last year and a half. And this is what we want to share with you today. Failing fast, failing cheap, try again, improve, and scale up. This is very important. And as I said before, no one has done it before in UNICEF. You know, it's the first time implementing such a program, so we didn't really know what to do or how to do it. So we have been trying different things, and piloting ideas in a small number of countries is a great strategy, because we can invest, some funds, just try to see if that works in specific countries, and then if it is successful, we can scale up to other countries or to regions, and if it doesn't work, then we change the approach. I also made reference before about sharing data with senior managers, and again, sharing data and insights in a timely manner is very important, but you have to do it right. I find that the data and the insights and the KPIs, everything we get from Gorkana and other companies, which is really useful. Normally the reports are like 55, 60 pages, but most of my colleagues, they don't read it because they don't have the time. And when they do have the time, sometimes they don't understand because it's too technical, or they don't understand, the background. So we have to translate all that amount of information, which is a lot and super, super useful for us. We have to translate it in a way that non-communication people and senior people, senior management can also understand. So preparing like a 1 page, for example, with the main highlights of the report is super useful. And also, again, trying to simplify what we do with a chart or with a few KPIs is something that is being quite helpful for us, because we get people to understand a bit better what we do. I mean, we have probably 15, 16 KPIs, but my colleagues only look at 1, which is the share of voice. So they look at, for example, what people are talking about children issues during the GA week, and they really want to see UNICEF being the leader there. And we can see that upstairs there is one pie chart which is showing the share of voice on two scenarios. One is on all global issues. So we're talking about all the United Nations agencies and all the issues. And then the other one is more focused on children. So from the global conversation related to the global goals and to the global issues, we are looking at how much is focused on children issues. And from that conversation, we are trying to estimate, and we're estimating actually quite effectively how much that belongs to UNICEF. And last week, for example, we had been leading the conversation with 47% of the voice. And that's what my colleagues really want to see. They want to see UNICEF as a leading voice when we talk about children issues. And this is the last one, is that measurement is an art. Do not try to apply the same model in all countries. Create tailored solutions to respond to the local needs and realities. And we are currently working with Megan and the team to try to translate again the global project into local projects. So it's a lot of work with the country office to try to find a solution that will work for them. Sometimes global companies do not have access to all the information that you need from a local market. So we need to work with a local company to try to get as much information as we can, to try to measure the KPIs that we are asking them to measure, and then in a way try to aggregate all the numbers from the countries into regions and then into global numbers. So that's kind of the next step in the project, being able to support a specific number of country offices. I think we're looking now at 15 or 20 country offices that will be able to replicate what we are doing globally, locally, either using the global provider or working with the local companies. So probably in the next 12 months or in the next year and a half, we should be able to see more of the result of this plan. Okay, thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Just want to say thanks to Gorkana and Cision as well. This is a great opportunity to share a little bit of what we do. How many of you heard of the Cleveland Clinic? Oh, wow, a lot. How many of you ever worked for a heart surgeon? See? Okay. So that adds a little color to my story here. So I will move this along here. So this is my home, away from home, and I spend a lot of time here. So I run the communications office for the Cleveland Clinic, and we receive about between 500 and 600 media calls a week. So a very busy international media operation. We do novel innovation surgeries, first of its kind. We did the first face transplant in the United States. And so we're really a go-to source for the media. I'm not going to focus as much on social media or internal communications. We also do a lot of metrics around there, but I just wanted to be able to share an example with you about our measurement journey and kind of where we came from. A little bit about the Cleveland Clinic. We have soon to be over 50,000 employees. We're in the process of acquiring another health system in Ohio, making us the largest employer in the state and the largest provider of Medicaid services as well, and very active in the Northeast Ohio area. We have 8 community hospitals, family health and surgical centers throughout Northeast Ohio that bring outpatient care closer to home, and our growing international operations are making us more of a global organization. And for healthcare, that's been an interesting experience because we just opened Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, and that was really the first of its kind that a U.S. healthcare system opened a facility to that magnitude in another country, especially in the Middle East, where they're really building their healthcare system. So one of the questions I ask my team, and just to back up a little bit, I've never been asked to really measure PR. I mean, physicians are very focused on evidence-based, they like data, but they've always said, wow, those PR stories are so great, very compelling. But it was our team that said, we want to be demonstrating what is the value of PR on the bottom line. And we went through some cost-cutting measures last year, cut $330 million out of our budget, and I was asked to cut 70% of my budget. And I started to think if we weren't measuring, we wouldn't be able to maintain it. So not only after I shared and have been ongoing sharing our metrics on public relations and the impact on the organization, not only did I not have to cut, but they actually added to my budget. So this is really important for us. So we look at, do we drive patient volume, create national awareness? Public relations efforts are the driving source of national awareness in the United States for Cleveland Clinic. So we take that pretty seriously and want to make sure that we maintain that level because we don't have a huge advertising budget. We also want to engage the public and the media and really demonstrate the value and really educate our leaders about PR and how does it work and why is it important. I was asked to talk about the old way. So about 3 years ago, we started our measurement journey. Do not laugh. This is how Cleveland felt when I was trying to look at the old way. I've been shamed by my AMEC colleagues and Gorkana and Ketchum that you're not allowed to talk about add value anymore. So when they said, what is the old way that you used to do it? Because we really didn't measure very well. And so I Googled sad faces, and this is what came up, and I thought it was kind of relevant. So anyway, we looked at impressions, we looked at local versus national, really focused on quantity, but the quantity of stories were there, but we weren't moving the needle on awareness. And I won't say the last bullet out loud. The new way, so now we score each of our stories. We really look at an algorithm. We score them from -100 to +100. We try to own the story, really be in depth, because through a lot of research that we've done, we realize that the more people know about the Cleveland Clinic, the more likely they're willing to travel, get on a plane, and come for care. So they travel for transplants, they travel for heart care, they travel for certain cancers, complex digestive diseases, and a couple others. So we really wanted to focus our PR efforts on getting people to get on a plane and travel to Cleveland for care. So we really focus on scoring and the quality of the story, and we also look at sort of the golden egg and how do we really make sure that we focus on that, although quantity is still important because we want to serve all of the media markets that are so important to us. When we talk about charting the course, Barcelona Principles, it's been a really important factor as we built our measurement program, understanding what works and what doesn't. Getting the right partners, you know, Arturo said it very well, we can't do it alone. We have an internal analyst and we have a marketing group that does metrics and analytics, but we need so much more than that. And we also use Ketchum, and Dr. Racklin and his team have been very helpful in providing that oversight and that direction and helping us understand it. At the same time, Gorkana has been terrific in helping us really build the dashboards and build the data that shows us the insights that are so important to helping us drive strategy. Setting goals and measuring the outcomes, focusing on the business results. I mean, most PR people really know what we do is important, but we don't know why. And I think we need to really start making measurement mainstream and asking the question why. Focusing on the quality and the quality, the quantity and the quality, both are important. Leveraging all of our internal assets. You've heard owned, earned, and paid. You know, we have limited dollars for paid advertising. We're not GE. We can't cover the earth in advertising, but we really do focus on targeted advertising efforts and our internal communication strategies and our blogs and social media, of course. I think, you know, if I just look at sort of the elements of our program in general, I mean, we started with nothing, and we really looked at reputation. Our company did a lot of brand reputation and awareness reputation, but not really reputation research. So we've been starting that annually to sort of benchmark where we are, where we want to go, and then really look at why would people travel for care. I mentioned that earlier, but that's important research for us because we really want to target the right message to the right audience and the right geographical location. And we also found through some research that if you asked 10 different stakeholders about Johns Hopkins, you would get the same answer about what people knew about Johns Hopkins. If you interviewed 10 stakeholders about the Mayo Clinic, you would get the same answers. When you surveyed the stakeholders about the Cleveland Clinic, you would get 10 different answers. So we realized we weren't doing a very good job telling a consistent story to our stakeholders. So we developed the Cleveland Clinic narrative that was developed in-house with our partners at Ketchum to really understand, you know, what differentiates us, how do we tell our story so we're a little bit more consistent. And then we look at all the research and the insights from the coverage and what's different, what's working, what's not, and how do we shape our strategy and our creative around that. The monitoring and analysis, we also have partnered with our marketing department. In the past, we've been a little bit more competitive with each other, and I think, you know, coming together and integrating with them has been very important for us. And we're in the process of building a database warehouse that is going to correlate in real time what activity is going on, whether it's marketing, PR, or advertising, and then what's happening with patient visits and patient volume at the same time. And I wanted to share a quick example. You don't have to look at any of the words on here, but we did, this campaign was called March 4th, and it was about building awareness for cancer, colon cancer. And so we came up with a screening tool, and we did a PR campaign around, you know, download this screening tool and assess your risk for colon cancer. And the numbers up on the side are up in the 350s, up to 450, but every time, so the first big spike is March 4th when we launched the campaign, and all the other spikes are exactly, you know, when we had a lot of media coverage. And the blue and green line along the bottom are sort of our normal course of coverage when we don't have a big PR campaign. What was interesting is you never know when you're going to need health care. It's not like when you go buy something, you know, you can track that purchase right there. Healthcare, you might see something and you don't know if you're going to develop cancer, or you don't know if you're going to need heart surgery, and it's unpredictable. So what we did is we had all of the data from these downloaded risk assessment tools, and we looked a year later, and the blue line across is the patient revenue that actually translated right directly back to the PR campaign, which was really important, and it's something that we never really were able to look at before. Our measurement has been more anecdotal, where we know a story is going to be really big, and we'll call the call center, and we'll have them track the phone calls that come in, and we'll call the Neurological Institute if we have a story that's coming out, and we know that thousands of phone calls come in from our stories, but we don't know then what happens to them once so the database that we're building is going to be able to allow us to track the revenue that's associated directly with the PR campaigns, which is important. So this was a month campaign that generated about 1,292 leads, overall leads. 396 were specifically tied to PR. 36 actual new patients came in. This was a year later. We were able to track what actual patients came in for an appointment. And I wish the number was higher, but 85,000 for an effort that really didn't cost us any money. It was a really good win, and it showed that these kind of coordinated efforts are really beneficial to the organization. And Gorkana has been terrific because they look at the coverage and analyze it for us and help us understand what worked and what didn't, and when they can track our target markets, our target messages, are we hitting the right places and the right media, because we know from our research that those folks are more willing to travel the more they know about the Cleveland Clinic living in these areas. And then back to LeBron, sorry. So this was, someone on our team came up with this idea. Cleveland was the big theme was we're all in. No matter what, we're all in. You guys probably remember if you're a basketball fan. So we came up with these little onesies for the babies that were born, throughout the week, and it said born all in, go Cavs. And it made national media. It just went crazy, and it was LeBron. And so we just got a ton of coverage, and our CEO was getting ready to be interviewed by, I think it was Maria Bartiromo. And we usually work with the producers to find out what they want to interview him about. And this is our chief executive officer, and she said, well, the first thing I want to talk about is the onesies. And I remember he looked over at me and he said, what is a onesie? So, but that was the big spike there on June 7th was all about the onesies. So it was, but the insight from this is that when we do have a creative campaign tied to a medical message, tied to some kind of celebrity or sports event, we usually get a lot of coverage on that. And then just to wrap up here, our measurement achievements for our organization have been very helpful as a leader of the department to really make sure that our leaders value and appreciate what we do. So I think measurement done right is really important, and I think Arturo said it well. Fail fast, fail soon, and try to fix it. I think learning from others is very helpful, and our colleagues, we talk all the time about measurement and what we could do better, sharing best practices. The research and the insights really help because insights are hard to understand what they are and how to get them, and I think it took us a while to figure out what is an insight, and that's where help from you is really important. But it really helps us divide, change our strategy and make sure that we're doing the right thing. For us in PR, especially in healthcare, it's important to have some kind of call to action because we're not selling things through advertising. It's really important that we capture that information from potential patients. Focus on outcomes, not just the outputs, the quantity versus the quality, and really partner with a strong team, and that's what we've really done. Sorry, I guess I wasn't on the right slide. Okay, so thank you.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for being here. Before I jump into it, raise your hand if you are a TD customer. A lot of hands. So thank you for your business. As America's most convenient bank, we want to make sure we're serving you well. And that's not a commercial spot. Also, would like to recognize two of my colleagues who are with me here tonight. So Jill Riley and Amber Lutz. They're intimately involved in everything that we are doing on measurement. We appreciate everything you're doing, and thank you for being here. I wanted them to be here for two reasons. One, I wanted them to network with everyone here this evening, and also I wanted them to keep me honest, because I like telling stories, and therefore I want to make sure that they're mostly factually correct. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. On my first slide. So metrics that matter. I asked Jenny, I said, Jenny, exactly what do you want me to speak about? She goes, well, talk about your journey as far as how you see measurement. Talk about the things that really matter to you, and talk about the things you've learned. What worked, what didn't, and how you see the future of measurement as far as the things you want to do for TD Bank. So when I thought about metrics that matter, this is really what came to mind. So metrics that matter to me, Brooks Adams Pinson, my second grandchild, born last week, 9 pounds, 6 ounces. That's a metric to me that really, really matters a lot. So there he is. So if you think about TD Bank, America's most convenient bank, we're a bit of a brand within a brand. So we are a bank, but we really create these awesome experiences that people really, really enjoy. Our stores are open 10 minutes longer than our posted hours. We're open every day of the year with the exception of 3. And if it's raining and you come into one of our stores, we will walk you to your car with an umbrella. If you have a dog and your dog is hungry and you want to come into one of our stores and you're not even a customer, we will give your dog biscuits and we will feed him water. So that's how we try to connect and just try to do things that are a little bit different. So right now we're launching another advertising campaign called Bank Human. I want to give you a little bit of taste of how you should think about TD as a different kind of bank.
I've heard TD Bank is the bank for humans. It has things humans really seem to enjoy, like longer hours, checking with a $100 minimum daily balance, and, oh, you can even bring your dog in. But why would you do that? Purr.
I see your Karate Kid also has no pockets. You worried you lose debit card?
Debit card? Ha! Don't be foolish. I have TD Bank. They replace card on the spot.
Ah, TD Bank. Very good.
Yes, good. Now prepare for hissing chicken.
Some homes suddenly became available in our neighborhood. My wife wants a bi-level. I would like a ranch style. Either way, we're going to get a great low mortgage rate from TD Bank. 3 flights of stairs. I'm gonna be dead.
So again, a different kind of bank. What's interesting about TD was 10 years ago, we did not have one asset or $1 of loan in the United States. But today we have 8 million customers, 250 billion assets, deposits of about 206 billion, tons of loans, 25,000 employees in the US, and locations 1,300. In a 10-year span during one of the most difficult periods of time for the banking industry and the financial services industry. So when I came to the company, I realized that I really wanted to make sure that we had a measurement program that really could make a difference. I'm a bit of a late bloomer. When it came to measurement, it wasn't really something I was really focused on until the second half of my career. And when I was with AIG, Chris Winans, who's right there in the second row, who's managing partner here with H&K, we were so busy putting out fires during the financial crisis, we were not using measurement to determine how well we were doing. We were just hoping to live to another day. Chris, would you agree? Absolutely. But it was this moment that really made me think about measurement as kind of a love-hate relationship, so I'm very passionate about it, but it's a little bit like fly fishing. You know, it's the art and it's the science and it's the journey of trying to perfect something that looks really beautiful, but really hard to do. Same true with my golf game. So never can golf like this, but when you have a great drive, you're like, that was absolutely awesome. What did I learn from it and how can I repeat that? So to me, it's that endless journey of trying to seek perfection. And it's the same way that we kind of look at, or I look at as measurement, as far as what can you learn, how can you get better, and how can you make sure you're really partnering with the right people to make sure you're doing the very best thing you can do for your company and you can do for your brand. So it was this quote less than 10 years ago when I was with AIG Retirement Services running corporate communications, and Chris knows this gentleman very well. He was my boss. He was the CEO of the company. And I remember one day we sat down for one of our one-on-ones, and I was walking him through some of the things that we had done recently from a PR perspective. He goes, I think this stuff is great, but John, your team does amazing work. But what does it mean for our business? So when I left Jay's office, I said, you know, that was kind of a hollow compliment, meaning he likes what we do, but I wasn't in a position where I could actually tell him what it was doing for the business as far as how we were driving awareness and how we were driving consideration, and ultimately how we were driving sales. So that really kind of influenced my experience with metrics. All this was happening when we were going through what was happening in our own businesses, right? So the world of traditional media was changing rapidly. Social media was really impacting as far as how we interact with others, new ways of communicating, new ways of telling our stories. I remember when I was talking to the managing editor of the Bits blog for the New York Times, I said, how best to pitch you because you're so hard to get? He said, John, 130 characters or less. That was 2009. It was the same year when I was with eBay Inc. that we live tweeted our quarterly earnings. The next day, it was a Wall Street Journal major story. So the world was changing. I was trying to catch up to it. Really had very little knowledge of measurement, except for the fact I managed the function when I was with eBay Inc. And the first thing I did was to look at how we measured. We had 32 agencies around the globe handling monitoring and measurement for us, all with different metrics, different approaches, different ways of defining success. It was absolutely maddening. So we went into a process of an RFP, a global RFP, and my goal was to really find one firm that could do it all. Couldn't find one firm because there are a lot of great partners out there. But we found Cision, and we found Gorkana, and we brought them together to really kind of handle how we were going to handle measurement from a global perspective, but we were going to build it up from the ground up, and that's what we did in great partnership. And it's really been a great story for me from the standpoint of really learning how to do it right, but then how to take that experience and bring it forward as far as what we're doing at TD Bank. So at TD, we focus on metrics that drive insights and influence strategy. So what does that really mean? You know, when you're working with business partners who have very, very little time, you really got to make sure when you're interacting with them, you're really talking about the things that matter most. And if we have a metric that will not drive an insight and it will not influence how we think about strategy, we will not use that metric. So when we went through a very similar RFP process in the last really 9 months, 12 months, it was really important that we kind of brought this forward. It was really important that we articulated that to everyone we were talking to. And we're here today because Cision and Gorkana were chosen to be our partners going forward. So to me, it was really kind of taking the experiences we had and bringing it forward as far as being able to drive engagement and being able to measure how well we were doing and everything that we were trying to accomplish from both a PR perspective as well as a social media perspective. So what I'd like to do is kind of just go through some of the insights I'd like to share with you as far as this journey of measurement, what I have learned and how we're applying it at TD. First insight I would say is develop a holistic and measurable dashboard aligned to achieving business objectives. You know, the human nature is to complicate things. Do what you can to keep it as simple as possible. Deliver macro and micro metrics on a consistent basis. So what does that mean? Try to aggregate the cumulative impact that we have on the business so we can help influence how we should be thinking about investing in the future. And don't be tempted by what I call Voodoo Metrics. What I mean by that is I have tried to find the perfect index over the last 10 or 12 years, and it's hard to find an index that you can explain to business partners that makes it sound like you're really driving great results for the business from a public relations standpoint. And I remember when we were going through this process before we started the RFP at eBay, it was a 45-minute discussion. We were having our PR agency to explain to me how to explain our index to business partners. And I said, we're in trouble. Because if it takes that long for you to explain it to me so I can explain it to somebody else, I don't think they're going to buy it. They're going to see it as black box, and therefore let's not look at that. So part of the reason we really focused on metrics was really to make sure we have the right metrics as far as how we want to drive the business. And then remember, you can't evaluate what you can't measure. The idea here is you got to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you can't measure. So it really helps to drive far more discipline as far as the things you're trying to do to really show the business that you're driving performance in a way that they can find very, very helpful to what they're trying to do to achieve their goals. The second insight is focus on KPIs that matter. So we've all talked about that from the panel standpoint. You know, impressions, you know, are they the new column inches? You know, how much do they really matter? As we think about that, you know, we have divorced ourselves from impressions as best we can. It's kind of hard to wean yourself off that, but, you know, we really haven't found it to be a metric that really matters to us and really allows us to articulate to business partners, again, how we're really driving the business. Aligned scorecards, I love affected impressions. So Jenny has schooled me well, so has Megan, on affected impressions. That's your message against your target audience through the channels that matter most to you. And why that is a powerful metric is because you can start quantifying and qualifying how effective PR is as a driver against some of the more traditional marketing levers like direct mail, like digital, like email as well. And we've been able to correlate that specifically in campaigns where we can say this is what that affected impression cost and why it's important to business partners because they realize it's that message we're trying to cut through. And this is what it costs when we went against your target audience and began to drive awareness towards consideration. The next one is integrate mainstream digital strategy with social strategy. So create a virtuous cycle of engagement. So what the heck does that mean? It means try to find that perfect harmony between social and traditional. And we started on this venture with Gorkana when I was with eBay. And it was really trying to find the best mix. And how could one help tease the other? And what's a good way to show that? And how can you really kind of put metrics against that so you can decide how you want to think about campaigns going forward? So it's really leveraging the strength of traditional and social, and then tie thought leadership and influencer engagement on top of that. So knowing the things that are important to your organization that provides that wrapping, that halo around the brand towards everything you're trying to do, whether it's product, whether it's line of business, or whether it's campaign specific, so you can drive additional engagement and additional conversation. So as a case study that I want to show you real quick, it's how we used to define synergy at eBay. Simply, 1 + 1 = 3. It's that extra, right? What can we do that really, really drives engagement far better than if we did it with traditional media or whether we did it with social alone? What's that virtuous cycle? We call it the arc of the story, and this is what it looks like. So back in 2012, we decided that we wanted to change the eBay logo. Now, it's a very whimsical logo for those who shop on eBay, whether you're buying or selling. And we knew that people have an emotional connection to this brand, and they have an emotional connection to the logo. So we knew anything that we do was going to receive a lot of scrutiny. And we wanted to make sure that we were driving a narrative that we could manage, that was critical to the process. And what we decided to do, which is the first time we ever did this, we said we're going to make a global announcement, and we're not going to issue a press release. We're going to do it purely through social, and we're going to let social tease traditional, and we're going to drive a traditional media cycle the traditional way, but we're going to drive conversation and engagement on the topic of what we did and why we did it. And we're going to do it against not 5 messages, not 3 messages, not 2 messages, 1 message. That we are changing the future of shopping. That's all we wanted people to realize, only because eBay was going from that whimsical site where you would buy Beanie Babies 10 years before to a very mature, sophisticated online and offline retailer where we were partnering with some of the greatest retail brands in the business today. So we felt we just needed to be a little bit more mature, a little bit more disciplined, a little more buttoned up. So this is what our scorecard looked like. Relevant impressions, again, remember, it's just that one message. The future of retail. And what we did was, you can see here in the dark green, we actually started with social media. We created a destination where we disseminated news, but we drove conversation to our site. So we could not just monitor that conversation, but we could influence that conversation. And we could bring influencers into that conversation, so anytime something was trending negative, we could shift the conversation. From that, we generated 1.4 billion relevant impressions over about a 1-week period. So Jenny and the team, Megan, worked on this. And this is one of those epiphany moments I had when it came to the virtuous cycle or the arc of the story. If you look at the traditional media cycle, the lighter green, what is it, 1 day? One day you get the second day bounce, you hope for that. But what we ended up doing was continue the media cycle over a period of a week by driving additional social engagement, which also helped us drive additional traditional. So all of a sudden we got far more impressions, relevant impressions, because I don't really care about general impressions, far more relevant impressions than we thought. And we ended up getting much more from social than we did from traditional. So that really changed how we thought about campaigns going forward, because it was that interaction of the both that really, really made the difference. So at TD, what are we doing? To be honest with you, we're doing a lot of the things that I was doing the 5 years before that we're bringing here. What we're doing with Gorkana and Cision now is we're refining it even further. So we're really kind of taking 3 approaches. We actually turned the switch on, I think, November 1st. So this is still a work in progress, but I'm going to show you exactly what it is that we're doing and how we're going about doing it. Again, it's based on what I believe is best practice that works pretty effectively for business. So the first is we're developing a quarterly scorecard. Also developing a line of business and product scorecards, and then campaign-specific scorecards. So it's really kind of like a funnel, big on top, narrow on the bottom. The quarterly performance scorecards is really to help business leaders understand what the total impact is to the business on a quarter-by-quarter basis. And then we can start showing, when we have more data, how one quarter does against another quarter. Why is that important? We can start understanding seasonality. Where do we want to play? When do we don't want to play? What are the big issues that people are thinking about in our business that we want to have a conversation about? So the more data that we get, the more it's going to influence our strategy. And as we like to say in our team, the more we know, the luckier we get. So that data is important to us. We can start looking at it from a seasonal basis, quarter by quarter, over and over. And then finally, as I mentioned, the campaign-specific scorecards will show that as well. So I'm going to show you, but before doing so, that's what it looked like 15 years ago. So for all of us who have been in the business, where we define success by how thick the Bacon's news clipping envelope was that we got once a month. Do you remember that? It had a little tag on it. And then every article, they kind of highlighted your company's name, so in case you were kind of lazy and didn't want to read it, you could actually see the highlight. So for those of us who've been around for 20 years, we remember that. That's how it was. In fact, I think maybe 15 years ago. So a lot has happened, certainly in the last 10 years, and certainly in the last 3 years, and probably more change in measurement, I'm thinking the last 3 years than perhaps the last 10 or so. So it's accelerating. So how do we stay on top of that? So I want to show you exactly what we did. This is where we were today about a year ago. Then, this is how we measured and how we did measurement on everything we were doing from a PR standpoint. Traditional media only, no social extensions. So when I came to TD, I said to Jill, who was running measurement, how do we do it? She said, John, I have a spreadsheet, and I have a number 2 pencil. And every month I take the Google Alerts feed, and I calculate out tone, reach, and volume. I said, you're kidding me. She goes, no, that's how we do it here at TD Bank. I said, that's not how we're going to do it at TD Bank. I said, because there's a new way of doing it that's going to help you not spend 250 hours a year, correct? Manually inputting something that I don't see until a month after the event that has an index of little value to the business. It was a quality scorecard based on subjective index factors. So we talked about black box index. If you have one that works, please share it with me because I'm really struggling to be able to make that work effectively. Reactive, no real-time capability. We're in the middle of a crisis, and Chris, you and I knew about crisis. I couldn't tell you how well we were doing except by feel. That's a dangerous place to be. And then lastly, limited alignment with business goals. Try to explain a spreadsheet with a number 2 pencil, manually input it 30 days to your CEO. We didn't do it because it wasn't the right thing to do. Here's where we are today. We're here because of our partnership with Cision and Gorkana. We went, really in 9 months, after doing a RFP where we included all the major, quote, experts. Here's where we are today. Integration of mainstream and social channels and outlets. Real-time issues management capability. Man, I love that. I like to know how we're doing in the moment on any issue because when you're in banking, you're dealing with issues a lot and you're dealing with them every day and you're dealing with them 7 days a week. Web analytics plugins, including a tie-in to our brand tracker, which we're going to be announcing in November, which allows us to see how what we're doing from a PR standpoint is actually influencing the key attributes in our brand tracker. Vastly improved competitive analysis. We believe we punch above our weight when it comes to PR. We believe that, but I can't prove that. We're going to be able to prove that pretty soon in the next 30 days. And then lastly, metrics aligned to business partner goals. We can show business partners, I don't care if they're retail, they're commercial, or they're corporate. We can show them exactly what the spend is doing, how it's influencing how people think about TD Bank against our competition, against in region as well. And we can actually put a numeric to it as far as what that cost is versus other levers. That's going to generate some really, really exciting conversations. So I'm going to go through it really, really quick because I'm sharing this with you because I'd be more than happy to share this even further in the conversation. So that's our corporate dashboard. That's what we're going to be turning on November 1st. So we have all the metrics we just talked about, specific to traditional. But on the right-hand side, we have the social as well. And then we have it aggregated. So it's sentiment, it's prominence, it's share of voice. Arturo talked about that as well. Message delivery, that to me is more important than anything else. What's our narrative? What's our story? What's our message platform? And what are we choosing that we're driving against that outlet, against what we're trying to do for the business? And then what's our cut-through percentage of that message to that target audience? Our goal is always to be at 75% on message number 1 or higher. Message number 2, about 60%. Message number 3, about 55%. But you can see as you add more messages and you make it more complicated, it's really hard to define your success. Corporate scorecard, next level down. Probably my favorite slide because I'm seeing social and I'm seeing traditional and I'm seeing it mixed. So all of a sudden we're starting to see how is social influencing traditional, how is traditional influencing social, and what can we do to push it a little bit further and do that over time. Take that 24-hour media cycle and extend it into a week, 10 days, 2 weeks plus. I said that last slide was my favorite. This is probably my favorite. So what I love is the fact, right? How are we doing on sharing? So those stories that are being shared, I am myopically focused on those because that tells me that's what people are most interested in. And if we didn't hit it hard and we could hit it harder, let's do it next time. Or can we do it real time in flight? Let's go for it now. We certainly have the relationships with the media that matter. As we build our influencer program and our thought leadership platform, we can influence it even further. So then we go straight from that into key themes, impacts, measures. Again, it's another layer down. That's kind of that quarterly corporate scorecard. We'll look at this every quarter. What I like about this is I love going through the analytics and the data to find the real insights. But I also looked at Jenny and Megan and team to say, what insights am I missing that you guys can tell us that will help influence how we think about the future? And then we say money in here. So we go specific to line of business and product. Because the heads of business will say, hey, I love the corporate scorecard, that's awesome, but what are you doing for me today? So we have a very specific scorecard, whether you own a product or whether you actually own a line of products within a business. Money in, so it's savings accounts, checking accounts. We'll tell you exactly, again, same metrics. So we're not applying new metrics. We're taking what we had in the quarterly scorecard and we're driving it deeper within the business. Level 2, going deeper, share of voice. Article dominance. Sounds like a funny metric, right? No, but it's not. I want to own the story. I don't want to just play in the story. I want to own the story. So therefore, let's prioritize against our time against those stories we can own. If we're taking kind of a look at an industry story, we can be part of that, that's fine. But I want to own the story. I want to keep punching above our weight. And then also key insights, message delivery. How are we doing on our messages? Again, the discipline. Go from 3, go to 2, go to 1. The smaller the batch, the better you can really define your success. Bring change, this is a campaign. So we do a lot of marketing campaigns. And what we love to do about marketing campaigns, because the marketing department will say, that's awesome. Can you guys get great press for us? And I'm always like, it's a marketing campaign. It's not news. But let's go ahead and wrap news around it. So what can we do that can really help take that marketing campaign and give it insight that's of value to a major reporter or a major outlet? And we've done that several times this year. Here's the bummer of what we've done. I can't tell you how well we did as far as how we drove the business then, because that was the then, but now it's the now. As far as now, we're going to be able to do that. Although I half want to go ahead and take one of our recent campaigns that was successful and retrofit our data as far as our coverage into a scorecard. But it sounds a little complicated and a little underhanded, so we're not going to do that. Bring change again, going back into spokesperson effectiveness. How many times we talk to an executive who says, I was awesome in that interview? And we're like, you know what? You sounded great, but you didn't hit one of our damn messages. It's happened to all of us, right? I mean, it's happened to me many times over. Now we're going to be able to say, we did pretty good on our messaging, but you know what? You weren't as strong as you could have been. And here's what we're going to do. So all of a sudden, we can start educating and training better, because we're going to say, when you come into the room, hit the message. The interview's not over until you do it. But now we can quantify just how well they did by name. And we can share this with those throughout the organization. Verticals are important to us. You know, again, I want to know, was it a feature, was it a brief, was it a mention? So lastly, closing slide, what the future holds. Here's what I've learned in my years in dabbling with measurement, because it is something I do have great passion for. Tighter integration with marketing. We've done a lot of that this year. That's really, really helped as far as really looking at just how we can work together, particularly because we own social channels, they own social channels, which work together. So to the customer, it's just one channel, one voice. Evolving the virtuous cycle model, that's going to continue. So therefore, what can we do to help further refine it? I think we can further refine it through our metrics and how we think about measurement. Better leveraging of thought leadership. We all have passion. Our businesses have passion for the things that matter most to us. It also matters the most of our customers. What's that higher level narrative that we can wrap around all the things that we're doing for the business on a day in, day out basis? And then keeping a keen eye on the prize. So what does that mean? Column inches a few years ago. Bacon's clippings 5 years before that. What's the next 5 years hold? And how should we think about measurement, not just today, but where is it going in the next 3 to 5 years? And that's where we are, TD Bank, America's most convenient bank as of today. So thank you.
I know we run a little over. I just wanted to ask one question because we are, we have here tonight, the CEO of Cision, and that means a lot because we are the largest in the space. It means the ability that we have, and others. We have folks from Ketchum here, other industry leaders. Here's an opportunity for you to actually kind of share, just in a couple of sentences, what's the thing you want to ask from us as an industry that we should be doing to, what is it that we need to provide to you? What do you need to see coming from us in order to continue to be successful and that we continue to be, the partners that help you do what you need to do? Arturo?
I think for me, it has been like a really amazing journey because we have learned a lot and it's an industry that is really changing quite rapidly. But what I would like to see is probably companies offering better solutions to integrate social media, news online, and broadcasting in one single product. I would love to have one dashboard where I can go and I can, compare information, try to see how social media is influencing TV, how TV is helping news online. And what we have designed now with Gorkana is kind of a combination of different tools that sometimes we're using different dashboards and different kind of sets of data. The integration aspect is something I would like to see probably improved. My dream would be to wake up one day, go to my computer, have one login, one dashboard, and then I have access to everything in one space. That would be really, really amazing.
Note taken. And again, we have Peter Granite here, for the CEO of Cision, who's listening carefully. Eileen?
I think the biggest takeaway for you all is that we don't have a left brain. We only have a right brain. So we all talked about, this journey to measurement is very hard for us, and it's not fun. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and I think actually it is kind of fun, but it's hard. And so I guess keep it simple for us. Help us understand what we don't know. Don't be afraid or shy to stand up and say, hey, this is the right way to do it, or really we value your input, we need your input, and we want it to be very collaborative and a team to do it.
So mine's a simple request. I would love to have a mobile app where I could look all at the key metrics on the go, any day, at any moment. Because so many times we'll deal with 3 or 4 comments to a Facebook post from customers, and it just throws everybody in a tizzy. And I'd like to be able to say, you know what, that doesn't really matter. What really matters is take a look at this. And I think we're getting closer, but being able to do it on the go anytime would be fabulous.
Great. Well, on that note, I'd like to invite Peter Granite to come up and wrap up for us. And we're going to have drinks and networking afterwards, so please feel free to come up and ask your questions.
Thanks, Jenny. Just a couple quick comments. I'm Peter Granite, CEO of Cision. I want to thank everyone, Eileen, John, Artur, for joining us today. I love a passion for measurement, and clearly all of you have that. Here today in the audience, I think most of you are staying here this evening for that same passion. And for us here at Cision, it's really important for us really to try and move the profession and the industry forward around measurement. We think it's one of the key components for how we actually measure the story that all of us are trying to put out there, whether it's nonprofit, universities, corporate. And we're going to continue to invest in that area. And part of the acquisition of Gorkana Group was a real commitment to that space. So we're going to wrap today. We have there's some additional cocktails and some food upstairs, but please continue to join us for a networking event upstairs. But thank you very much for coming to this evening.